All right, so we have another gambling suspension to happen. Obviously, last year we had the Calvin Ridley thing, and now this year we have a weird thing to come out of 5 players have been given suspensions, some of them indefinite suspensions. So here are the 5 players. 4 of them are for the Lions, 1 are for the Commanders. The Commanders is Shaka Tony, I believe is how you say his name. You also have CJ Moore and Quintez Cephas. Those 3 guys all have been given indefinite suspensions, whereas Jameson Williams, who's easily the biggest name on this list, he was the first rounder that the Lions selected and traded up to get. I believe pick 11 last year was around there at least. So, he's a big loss, or he was hurt most of last year. They were really excited to get him this year. He's been suspended for 6 games along with Stanley Berryhill. So those are the players. Now, the Lions just cut Moore and Cephas, the 2 guys who were suspended for an entire year. They're out indefinitely. We don't know exactly what happened there. We don't know why certain players received harsher sentences than others. It's also worth mentioning they were officially suspended for violating gambling policies. Gambling policy violations were what caused it to happen, which doesn't inherently mean that they gambled themselves. I have not read exactly what is the gambling policy, so it could be something else. That's an important distinction to note. We still don't know exactly what happens. Is worth noting for Jameson Williams, who I think is the biggest key factor here. I mean, listen, like Quintez Cephas was a nice player for the Lions, but really it's Jameson Williams is the biggest factor here. He's still allowed to go to preseason. He's still allowed to go to training camp, so that should help him. But that's still a big disappointment for someone who you were hoping to see take the next step. And now when he comes in, he's going to come in after a month and a half of no first team reps. That's really difficult. Personally, I can't believe that people would do anything gambling related after the Calvin Ridley incident. Calvin Ridley got suspended for a year, and the fact that you shouldn't talk about gambling if you're in the NFL. Just don't do anything about it. It's really simple, and it's really shocking to me that someone would still do something like that. Now listen. A lot of people we're going to have this conversation again. We typically do. A lot of people bring up, why are these gambling suspensions so difficult, or so harsh, I should say. Why does Quintez Cephas get suspended for a year? Deshaun Watson didn't get suspended for a year. The reason for it, and you could agree or disagree, the reason for it is to remember this is not an ethical suspension. They're not suspending people because they think gambling is so terrible. I mean, there's plenty of gambling ads on TV, right? They don't have an issue with gambling. They have an issue with players gambling, and the concern is if players gamble on the games, would people then think it's fixed, or even could it then be fixed? Could the games be rigged? The NFL, that's the last thing they want to have happen. So because of that, that is why they come down so harshly these types of ways. So, it has nothing to do with somebody, yes, I get it. The, suspensions that, Ray Rice got 2 games for domestic violence, right? Which I think we all agree in hindsight probably should have been a lot more than that. But even so, the reason why he got suspended was because of how bad he made the NFL look. It wasn't because of the actual ethical thing there either. Suspensions usually aren't ethical statements. That's just not how it works, and certainly not how it works in this scenario. They're not saying Quintez Cephas is a terrible person. They're just saying that if you get caught gambling, you're going to get suspended for a while. So we'll see how it works out with these players, but pretty tough blow for the Detroit Lions. And again, it's not that hard to not gamble on this stuff. And again, I think some people say the NFL is hypocrites for promoting gambling, but then they also don't seem to have an issue with, or they promote gambling, but then if a player gambles, then they, blow a lid and say, what are you doing, and suspend them for all this time. Again, the key issue here is that the NFL views it that there's nothing wrong with gambling. If you want to gamble, gamble. If that's something that you're interested in doing, go ahead, have at it. The issue arises in this scenario when a player does it, because that, again, it's not even really the act of a player gambling. If it's a game that's unrelated to them, that itself isn't necessarily a problem, but they feel it's a slippery slope. They feel like if you gamble, that means that potentially you could have inside information, and that is where things get tricky. Because, again, it's illegal if you're in the stock market. right? And you know that a company is about to have some really bad news break because of the inside information you have, and so then because of that, you sell all your all your stock in that company right away. That's insider trading. This is essentially what they're doing. It's the fear of insider trading because you do know people, and the fact that these all came out of different teams. Perhaps they knew each other, and that's how part of it happened. Again, that's just total speculation, but perhaps that's the case. Maybe you bet on a game that wasn't even your team, but maybe you still have a friend on that team that you went out drinking with last night, and so now you know that they're probably not going to have a great game, and so then you bet against that team, right? Or maybe you heard through the grapevine because of this. Oh, hey, this there's this player that's listed as probable, but they're actually not going to play. So now you have that little bit of information that you can use. So there's those issues, and again, the obvious concern more than anything like that is what if potentially you're actually partaking in a rigging of a game, which I think that with gambling becoming the way it is, it does feel like in one of these professional sports, eventually one of those things is going to happen, right? Someone's going to take a dive, like in Pulp Fiction, or I guess he actually didn't take the dive, but you know what I mean. You're going to see someone, like a boxer who takes a dive and then collects a payday. Could one of these NFL players who's, a fringe NFL player take a dive and, purposely screw up a game so that way they can, make a bunch of money. Luckily, the NFL players make a ton of money already. Don't know if they need to do that, but still, you never know. The NFL doesn't want to take any chances, which is why they're not taking any chances. So, yeah, from the Lions' perspective, very disappointing. Listen, it's not like you had, if Amon-Ra St. Brown was suspended for a year, that would be really, really tough. But still, it just got to be frustrating. I mean, a big part of what we talked about the Lions and why they could get better, one of that key piece was Jameson Williams. And for a team that, there's so much optimism now for the Lions. It's like they're America's team right now. They really are. Everyone wants to see the Lions be successful, and because of really just, again, I want to call it a stupid mistake. I don't know the details, and so I guess I can't fully say that. And it is weird how he only got a 6-game suspension. Because remember, Ridley got suspended for a whole year for gambling on, I think he did a 5-team parlay, and the Falcons were one of the teams that he bet on. And he was just sitting on his couch, and his story of it, at least, was he was sitting on his couch, said, let's just do this. He put it in and then got suspended for a year because of that. So what could you do that's lighter than that, gambling-wise? I don't know. Maybe you told someone who likes to gamble something that you shouldn't have. I have no idea. I don't know what his, what he did to deserve this, but definitely that's, it's just interesting. But yeah, again, that's why the suspensions happen. Those are the suspensions. What are your thoughts on them? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.